This is me, the Grand Duchess Rasmus Kunin, also known as Ryan Tomlinson. I'm talking about loss today. I spoke about loss already, so I want to reiterate this book. Today I spoke to so many people today, and you know what? I applied for a government loan, right? This loan grant, I didn't know that government loan were now outsourced to places like Nepal and Indonesia that you apply for a grant. So, you know, if you don't get the benefits of the grant, the government grant, it was a education grant I applied for, of which this government worked on. We are outsourced to Nepal. I didn't realize I had to pay a fee to Nepal if I'm paying taxes to the DC government on this grant, which I was not aware of. I was informed that this grant in itself had to be paid to Nepal in order for me to get this money here. I thought that was wholly inappropriate. So I asked for a refund because I've never heard of anything like that. It sounded like a scam to me. Unbeknownst to me, this government worker gave me his address as being in Southwest Washington, D.C. So we shall have to find out the details of that. You will lose your money if you do not get the grant. They want me to pay another $1,000 or something like that to the D.C. government for taxes on a grant, a student grant. Darling, but I talk about loss, and I'm going to give you several examples before I go into what I'm really getting at today. Then there was a little order today from Takeout Taxi. Large salad, Chipotle salad, with some extra sauce, some ribs, and some fries. And unknowns to me, there were no French fries, and there were no extra sauce, but everything was on the receipt, but I was not received. So I had to call them back, and they said, well, it was there. They checked it. So they went and got me another order. But you know what I did today? I accept the loss of that money, that $40 I paid for that food, and I sent it all back to Takeout Taxi. You examine what I was given, and let's see what's going on with that. The delivery person was hesitant to take it back, but I reiterated that I wanted the staff seat, the dispatch staff. I spoke to a friend in Jamaica today, and he said he understands my position. He understands what it's like and what I probably have went through. And I said, you know, I said to him, but you cannot. I said, you don't sound like the same person I knew in high school. You are smart, confident, grew up in a rough neighborhood, and intelligent. What happened? He told me that he couldn't have confidence. We are not allowed to have confidence after adversity. Yet submit to your victimizers. And I thought, well, he has lost a great deal. But I told him, you cannot lose confidence. You cannot lose your spirit. Interesting. As a black person. Interesting. Another thing, we talk about loss. Loss of titles, loss of family. But what do we never lose? We should never lose our respect, our respectability. We should never lose our integrity. Remember, maintaining your confidence, maintaining the center of your spirit in adversity is important to us. Money is not important than life. But if you're victimizers, somebody called me, represented the U.S. government on this grant loan money and said, we're outsourced from Nepal. If it's the government, then you have lost $330 to the government, and so what? They are your persecutors. If so be. I have lost much more to the army. I lost a whole life, a whole career, and I almost lost my life more than once to them. Being harassed and victimized, and further being victimized here at Walter Reed also, in many shapes and forms. If not for the way I dress, the way I speak, or the way I act. Not for being yourself. How can one lose the essence of one's personality? What I have lost in my experience is the ability to be the ability to remain silent. I have lost that ability to remain silent. That ability to be subjugated by people who do not mean you any good, by people who do not respect you for who they are, for who you are, and for who they are. I have lost the ability to stand silent while somebody says something ruthless and do ruthless things in your presence while we accept it as a part of procedure. Whether it is calling somebody names, whether it is victimization by overworking or whatever it is intolerable. Intolerable. Being homosexual and having to listen to people to be victimized in that by that stance, by your femininity, by your masculinity, by your intelligence. It's intolerable. But maybe it is done because you have the power and the confidence. You have the intelligence as well as the wisdom to match them. And what do they have? What are they driven by? But by the persecution of your abilities, the persecution of you, meaning that you should be quiet. You should no longer project yourself because you are not as worthy as they are. But I found that out today. I live it every day here at Walter Reed. I've been living it every day of my life. But today, a takeout taxi, I said, you know what? I'm not going to complain one more time. I'm going to send it back to them. I took that $40 loss. I took that $330 government loss because you know what? I had never known to pay taxes to the DC government by sending the money to Nepal and back to the DC government for a government grant tax. That's unbelievable to me. And so, how do we negotiate these things in our life? How do we become respectable? Should I suffer? Should I subjugate myself? Should I lose the essence of my personality and my character to people who don't give a shit about who I am? And when I needed a hand, I had no hands. When I needed a hug, I had nobody to hug me. When I needed support, I had no one. When I had perfect health and I was drugged, raped, assaulted in the military, I had no one to back up my story. Why? What a loss that was. And what is it that they're trying to regain? This re-entry into this society that was so oblivious to others and so oblivious to the needs of others and to oblivious to their mission. That is the greatest loss for them. It's their loss. It would be no loss, it would be a gain for them. If I had subjugated myself back into their system, because then I would never have learned my lesson or to assimilate myself back into the people that did the same victimization to me. I ran into somebody today who said, you know what, after everything you went through, you wasn't a suicidal person. I never have been suicidal or suffered from any condition. But what I suffered was from the integrity, the disingenuity, and the stupidity, and the lack of responsibility by a group of people that claim to be better than the rest of society, the civil society, to protect those who serve. And my dear, that is a loss for them, not a loss for me. I will gain, and I have gained today. And I tell all young people today, do not measure your losses by money and what people may say about you, about your integrity. But you do not suffer, do not suffer the losses from what they might do to you, as long as you do not lose your integrity, your personal freedom, and your ability to be free mentally, if not physically. That will be your greatest strength. Because guess what? God was my help then, and He is my help now. And I have triumphed, and I will continue to triumph. And I have seen my enemies. I have seen them in their disaster. And probably there is more to come, because they are unable to correct themselves. They're trying to regain what was lost to them instead of repairing it. Have a good night. This is me, the Grand Duchess Rasmus Coonan.